Heidi ho everyone, my name's Mr. Fruit and welcome back to Destiny 2. We have another Dev Insight article. It is really long. It's really long. So I'm going to try to give you guys the very high level takeaways from this article as quickly as I can. I haven't scripted it because I have a bunch of other things I need to do today. The first half of this article is mainly PvP focused. There's a lot of information in here that makes my eyes glaze over, much less everybody else's. This first section here is Bungie just kind of giving like a before and after, pre and post patch, like a bunch of charts here to kind of show the results of some of these nerfs and buffs that they do over time. You can kind of read up on this by yourself if you really want to. The first couple are like, this is high skill, all primary weapons, high skill top 50 weapons. This is pre-patch. And then we have post-patch, and it kind of goes over like, here's how everything shifted and blah, blah, blah. And like, did we hit our goals? Like, did these things move in the way that we wanted them to? So if you're more into that kind of data, or you're really into PvP or wondering about the meta, stuff like that, I think these charts are actually really cool. One of the most interesting things that I saw from these charts is the difference between high skill and all skill and the top weapons that appear on some of these charts. One of the notes that Bungie makes in here basically talks about, where is it? Somewhere in here, where at the higher end, you're not really seeing auto rifles because there's a lot more peak shooting and all that kind of stuff. But at the lower levels, auto rifles are everywhere. And I think this is shown most notably by this chart. I'm sorry to blind you. Suros regime, way up here, 25% kills over expected in the all skill. We have Quicksilver Storm also up here. We have Centrifuge, which is the Season 21 weapon up here. We have Vex Mythoclast, which acts like an auto rifle, which I think Bungie has said in this article that they are touching. Top kills over expected weapons in all skill, auto rifles everywhere. If you're part of the high skill, like, you know, let's look at post patch. Was this pre-patch? This is post patch as well. Vex Mythoclast is up here, sure. Suros is not even on this chart. It's not even here. And then I don't think there's even Quicksilver Storm. Like, where's Quicksilver Storm? It just goes to show that, like, high skill, low skill, they live in like completely different worlds when it comes to meta, when it comes to balancing. And I think this was like one of those, like, what? Like, I saw this and I was like, what is Suros regime doing? I haven't busted out Suros regime since month 1 of D1, bro. It just goes to show like how different a world is between all skill, high skill, low skill. Not to say that like every gun on here is completely unique, because obviously there's a lot of duplicates, but that was just one example that I found. Like, I was like, oh my God, it's wild out here. So anyway, very interesting stuff if you want to check that out for yourself. And I hope that Bungie shows more of this stuff. They literally said at the top, yeah, we don't often get to do this. And I was like, please do it more. So this is a rather significant change right here as we move into the weapon balance changes. Double special. I'm going to read this verbatim just so we're very, very clear we're on the same page. A while back when we made the swap to infinite primary ammo, it unintentionally generated a bug that caused running double special weapons to drop heavy ammo at an increased rate. While we find some applications of double special to be interesting, particularly builds utilizing special weapons with custom ammo economies like Trace Rifles or Forerunner, providing a flat-out benefit to ammo was negating the trade-off of running double special. PvE kills with 2 special weapons equipped now generate heavy ammo at the same rate as 2 primaries or 1 primary and 1 special. So double special up basically until Season 22 was an incredibly, incredibly strong loadout because you could almost on demand generate heavy ammo for yourself. You would generate so much more heavy ammo, and that negated a lot of the cost of running double special. You never needed to really worry about running out of some type of like primary ammo, especially recently with the buff that machine guns have gotten. You can basically use a machine gun as a primary weapon, and you use that in order to refill all of your special ammo. And then as soon as your special ammo is filled up, you use that until you ran out, and then you switch over to heavy. And it just created this like infinite combo of using these super, super powerful weapons all the time. I'm a little sad to see it go because there are some builds that I use double special, and I use it mainly because I use a trace rifle. Like my Cold Heart build, for example, I use a fusion rifle and Cold Heart because the build's like really fun that way. I don't want to feel like I'm in a double primary situation where I'm using a primary weapon and a trace rifle. That just doesn't feel good. But I totally understand that like part of the appeal of double special was that you got a bajillion heavy bricks on the ground. Like it's crazy how much heavy ammo you could get. And Bungie said that they had done something about this in the past. It was pretty obvious that they didn't. I'm expecting this change to actually take place this time around. So yeah, bit of an end of an era situation. I do want to see if, double special still ends up being some level of viable. I think you just might need to be a little more careful about your ammo usage. You can't just blindly be spending all of your ammo willy-nilly. But yeah, it is something that made us even more powerful than we have been. And looks like it might be time to say goodbye here. Another big thing, we have some more reticle stuff, adding perk active indicator symmetry, Grand Overture. They've been doing a lot of stuff with like reticles and displaying information on the screen right in front of you. One of the big things that we're mainly going to be glossing over here is zoom and damage fall off tuning. A lot of this, literally starting from right here, is like the big giga brain metrics data, like all this kind of super high level stuff that I am not even going to try to translate for you guys. So we're just going to keep it right here. This is what we're covering. Major changes to ways zoom and range and like damage fall off are going to be interacting with like each other. The three main goals, I think the easiest one to comprehend for most people is going to be slightly reduce the average engagement range in the Crucible by pulling in the maximum damage fall-off distances of many weapons. Bungie also talks about range compression, so they're bringing down the ceiling, but they're raising up the floor a little bit. They're trying to make it so combat situations are not as lengthy as they are right now. The other two things are decrease the variance between the optimal engagement ranges of our mid-range weapons to reduce the instances of one weapon or another being the clearly advantaged choice based on minor differences in engagement distance. They want things to be a little more equal, and prevent individual weapons from overstepping their intended engagement ranges because of the multiplicative scaling zoom provided to damage fall off. So let's cover that real quick. What does zoom actually do on your gun? It does four things. It scales damage fall-off distance, which usually meant you got more range as a result. It scales aim assist fall-off distance. It increases your accuracy and it reduces recoil. As of Season 22, this one is gone. Number one on the list, damage fall-off distance, that is gone. So zoom is no longer going to scale your damage fall-off, and that's usually like some kind of a range benefit that certain weapons got. So now that these two are split apart, Bungie can balance things a little more individually, and that's cool. If you are the most average of average players, I think the only thing that you're really going to notice is maybe the engagement ranges in the Crucible being changed up and reduced. That's what I think that the super, super high level takeaway for the average player is going to be from this section, is that Bungie is trying to reduce the average engagement range in the Crucible. This is partly going to help that, and is also going to help them balance weapons without needing to worry about, zoom also makes this change. They're separating all these things. They are continuing their separation of a lot of these stats so they can balance them individually. You can visit your local PvP expert for more information on how a lot of this stuff breaks down. We have charts. We have more charts. I was going to say graphs, but we don't have any graphs. A a lot of these numbers are not going to mean much to many people. I'm not going to sit here for 10 minutes trying to explain a bunch of this because I know most of you probably don't really care that much. Lots of custom tuning things happening with certain exotics because they had special treatment. I'm going to let the big brains handle that if they even want to handle it. We're just going to move on, but that's the high level takeaway is they're trying to change up range. Next, weapon archetypes. Everyone can come on back, like wake up. We're back to stuff that people can actually understand. A decent amount of these things we've already heard of. Hand cannons we've heard about in a couple of updates now. They are getting pretty nice buff. Reload speed at 0 stat increased by 15%. The major thing here is the PvE damage buff, 20% buff to red bars, 75% buff to orange bars. Again, we've known about this, so I'm not going to dwell on it for too long. Warden's Law is going to be a new hand cannon or part of a new subfamily called Heavy Burst. It's a 2-round burst. We'll see how those end up performing. But again, hand cannons, we've talked about a whole bunch. Bows are kind of getting some like hit reg fixes at longer ranges due to the velocity of the projectiles sometimes preventing them from registering as hit scan. They're making some fixes here. They're doing some slight reload changes as well. So that way, reload perks and stuff like that can still kind of work. SMGs, visual bug. SMGs don't fire at 750. They fire at 720. They've always fired at 720. They've just shown 750. So they're changing it to 720. Sidearms, pretty strong right now in PvP. They're pretty lethal. They are reducing their base damage from 32 to 30 to kind of counteract what's going on in the Crucible. Totally understand that. The BXR had its its zoom changed off of 20, and that just made the gun feel weird. And now that they are breaking apart like zoom and a bunch of these other stats, they can change the zoom back on the BXR, so it should hopefully feel a little bit better. Shotguns, we have just a visual bug for the Comedian, which is a shotgun that I don't think really anybody is even using. Okay. Fixed an issue where for fusion rifles where adept masterworks and enhanced intrinsic perks were decreasing the damage dealt by fusions when they changed the charge time stat. They want these weapons to still be good. They don't want people to feel like their fusion rifles being made worse because they are changing the charge speed. I don't know if this applies to linears. It just says fusion rifles. And I feel like they would have said if it applies to linears. So we'll see. Because that might have a little bit of an implication for linear fusion rifles. For you boss damage enthusiasts out there. Waveframe GLs. Yeah, this is a very good change. It was super, super easy to kill yourself with a waveframe grenade launcher. A heavy waveframe grenade launcher. So they're making it so it's not going to happen as often. Good change, even if, heavy waveframe GLs are still kind of like, we don't know what to do with these just yet. Next up is swords, and there are a lot of sword notes here. High level stuff is that Bungie wants sword guarding to actually be worth something. They want it to be good. They are doing so many different kinds of buffs to sword guarding between like how much energy is going to be recharged after a guard, the delays after guarding, and how much energy you get back. They've increased the energy return rates after the guard delay or the energy like regen delay to compensate. So you're going to get way more energy back. Full power heavy attacks can be now used with any non-zero amount of sword energy. So you're going to be able to do more heavy attacks. Sword guards damage resistance getting way up there. Pretty close to glaives. I think glaives are like 98%, something ridiculously high. Although in PvP, it's not going to be as high. You no longer lose energy when you're taking damage while guarding. The duration has been increased. Like basically almost anything involving sword guarding got a buff. They got a big old buff because Bungie wants people to be able to do something with sword guard because nobody does anything with sword guard. At all. Swords are literally just mash the button until you die or the other thing dies. And that's it. And they want it to have a little more flexibility in the game, which I totally respect. Totally understand that. Lament is a special case, so it's not really going to get as many changes, but it still gets the sword guard damage reduction and duration increases, which is also understandable because the Lament deals a bajillion damage. Let's move to exotics. Let's move to the good stuff. Monte Carlo. The knife on Monte Carlo has now become a catalyst. It looked like they activated Markov Chain with their melee attack, and they were able to proc the catalyst, which turns you get to activate the blade on the weapon, and it looks like it deals a bunch of bonus melee damage. This is the catalyst that Bungie said was the most ambitious that they have worked on, most complex catalyst mechanically, custom animations, a lot of stuff we've never done on a weapon before. They were able to make it work. We are now able to stab with Monte Carlo. The only issue is that you do need to use Monte Carlo, and Monte Carlo is mainly a gun that is used in more melee-focused builds, not necessarily because it's like a super good gun. Like, it's okay, but because it provides so much of a melee benefit to some of these melee builds, that's why people end up using it. So we will see if this gets any more of an uptick in terms of its use. I am not personally in the biggest hurry to swap over to Monte Carlo, although, I don't mind the weapon. I'm just not a Monte Carlo enthusiast. Next, we have some more stuff. Quicksilver Storm. There was an issue where there was like the ammo being put into the gun and then actually registering on your ammo counter they were not aligned. So they're fixing that. Cool. Cosmetic only change for Dead Man's Tail. The impact stat was shown incorrectly, but otherwise nothing's changing there. Two-Tailed Fox now fires a 3-burst shot with the catalyst instead of firing 3 rockets in a 2-burst shot. I guess it was just like a little weird, like the firing mechanism on that. Vergla Curve had a big issue where Whisper of Fissures was interrupting the Hail Barrage effect. Essentially, if Whisper of Fissures got the kill, you did not get any Hail Barrage stacks. And that kind of sucked because Whisper of Fissures is really good with this bow. And if it got fixed, you'd be able to use this bow in a much more effective manner and a much more fun manner, because this bow, like when you can actually get those 5 arrows back to back and just keep chaining them, it's a lot of fun to use. But Whisper of Fissures got in the way. They are fixing it, or hopefully it has now been fixed. Along with a couple of other things. We increased the slow stacks from 40 to 60 when hitting players directly with Hail Barrage arrows. This allows for a freeze if 2 Hail Barrage arrows hit the same player. I don't think I've even seen someone use this in PvP. I would be very surprised if this becomes a problem, but okay. Le Monarch, the PvP menace, thorn in the side of many high-end PvP players. The thing hit hard. It kept you out of a combat scenario for a very long time because not only did it hit hard, but it also poisoned you, further delaying the rate at which you would restore your health, right? You got hit super hard. It basically felt like you were 1 HP. If you did literally anything else, you were probably going to die. They are reducing a lot of its power. It now deals 85 on impact to the body, 136 to the head against players. The dot duration is now 1.75 seconds, down from 3 seconds. So it should be much less annoying to be hit by this weapon. It's still going to be annoying, but much less so. I do suspect people will still probably use this weapon in PvP because it is still, I think it'll still be relatively strong because it still keeps an opponent out of a combat situation for a longer period of time than other weapons would, but it hopefully should not be as annoying. Reduced draw time to kind of compensate, so it's now 612 as opposed to a 684. Body shot damage has been reduced. Critical hit multiplier was 1.5, it's now 1.6. But the crit damage is, still as I just said it. The poison dot effect is now only 1.75 seconds, moved from 8 to 6 ticks of damage, but the poison still deals the same amount of total damage. But the poison damage in PvE was increased by 50% to compensate for the duration change. So you're still being able to utilize that poison damage in PvE, which I think is okay because this bow is still fantastic in PvE as it is right now. And I will suspect that it'll be fine in PvE. Vex Mythoclast. I feel like, judging by the charts, Vex Mythoclast, the charts that we saw at the beginning of the video, it's still really strong. But although Vex Mythoclast is categorized under a fusion rifle, so its kills above expected are way, way higher than they should be. It's more of an auto rifle. But because it's so good, Bungie is reducing the RPM from 390 to 360 to match other high impact autos, which I don't believe are in the greatest spot right now. So we'll see about that. Increased damage against minor combatants and major combatants by 25% in PvE to compensate. I feel like that was, that's like a net gain overall for Vex Mythoclast in PvE. 360 autos right now, I think are struggling a little bit, at least at the, the higher end of the skill bracket. Lower end, as we just learned, maybe this won't have that much of an effect. We'll see. I'm pretty okay with that PvE buff. I'm not gonna lie, but I haven't really used Vex Mythoclast in a while. It just was one of those things that has been so good for so long, and I was like, I want to move on to something else. Tommy's Matchbook. I actually tested out Tommy's Matchbook with this update, and I was so underwhelmed that I completely abandoned the video that I was going to make on it because I was just so unenthused with it that I was like, wow, I so don't care at all. Wasn't working as expected, so the new behavior gives the same end result, but front loads more Scorch onto the base behavior. So now instead of 14.7, it's 15.5. So there might be some edge cases where, having that 15 instead of the 14 might, mathematically give it a faster Scorch on certain conditions, XYZ, blah, blah, blah. But it doesn't sound like the overall weapon itself is getting a crazy boost. So I am skeptical at how much this is actually going to do for Tommy's Matchbook. I was incredibly underwhelmed by Tommy's Matchbook in my testing that I did during this season 21. Touch of Malice. Big old buff. It's a strong weapon, as we covered in the video. It's just there's no place to use it. You never need it. You just didn't need what Touch of Malice provided. The usability of the gun was just too low in any content where it mattered. It was very easy to kill yourself with the weapon, and a lot of that downtime took away from the benefits that it had. You'd shoot. Oh crap, I'm about to die. I need to just stand here for a sec and regenerate my health, and then I can get back to it. Or I could use a weapon that I could just shoot all of the time, and I don't have to worry about this health regen nonsense, unless I have some kind of a healing rift. Bungie knows that we have a lot of ways to heal ourselves, but believes they have gone too far. So big buffs. Big old buffs are coming. Final round damage increased in PvE by 20%. So that's that last shot of the magazine that you stay on, that you're supposed to stay on. Decrease the self-damage from the final round from 10 to 7. So you're dealing less damage to yourself. The final round can no longer kill the user. So you can just chug away. You'll be at 1 HP the whole time, but you can keep shooting that thing forever. You won't kill yourself with the bullets, which I think is probably the most significant change that they could have made to Touch of Malice. Health rewarded also increased by more than double. We're going from 30 to 75. So when you do get those procs, it feels a lot better as opposed to getting a little heal bump and then I still kind of have to wait for my health to regenerate. That is a very, very nice buff as well. Touch of Mercy to work like Unrelenting. So bigger targets will give more points essentially. And the Ball of Darkness now appropriately deals arc damage and will blind combatants and stun unstoppable champions. Nice little bonus effect. I've always thought that ball mechanic was pretty cool, but it did always kind of take a while to activate, and it kind of took you out of the experience a little bit. But in terms of its flavor and stuff, and that actually having that ability on the gun, it's pretty cool. I definitely want to revisit Touch of Malice to see if it's going to be worth using again. Because you can, it's a scout rifle. You can put yourself in a safe position to be able to use this thing, especially in high-end content. As long as you're being a little bit careful, you're strafing out of the way of some grenades here. This has a chance of kind of making, I don't want to say making a comeback, because something needs to be there in the first place to make a comeback. But I think, this thing has a decent shot of making it in the world. Malfeasance faced an issue where Vorpal Catalyst wasn't displaying the text, whatever, fine. Cloud Strike has been talked about already. Bungie is like, hey, this AoE stuff is kind of getting out of control, right, guys? People are like constantly AoEing down full trials teams with this thing because people are standing a little too close together, and Bungie's like, okay, I think this is a little too much here. So they are reducing kind of the radius, the lethal kill distance of the lightning strike. So those AoE kills may not be happening as often as they are right now. Wicked Implement. They were very conservative with the weapon out of the gate. They know what Stasis did to the Crucible way back when, and they were a little scared of creating bad experiences about getting slowed and all that kind of stuff in PvP. They've seen what people have done with the gun. They're like, okay, we're going to give it a little bit of juice. The timing window for creeping extraction has been increased by 1 second, so you have a little more time to activate it. You can activate Tithing Harvest by destroying stasis crystals, and now the catalyst comes with Headstone. Love that for some PvE stuff. I mean, Headstone has been just like a premier perk for stasis, basically since it came out. So Wicked Implement getting a nice little boost. Next up, we have perks, and I think this is mostly the last part. Oh, no, we have a crafting section. Forgot about that. Bipod. One of the big perks to come out. Basically, I think it's doubles your inventory, but it made it so your rockets did less damage. They are reducing that penalty from 40% to now 25%. I think some math wizards are still determining whether or not Bipod is going to be a viable burst damage option on rockets going forward now. It's kind of tough to compete with Cold Comfort and Envious Assassin with bait and switch, because that combination allows you to get, I believe it's 4 rockets in the chamber at once if you maximize all of the parts of Cold Comfort, because it also has the origin trait that allows you to boost the ammo in the magazine. So I think the verdict is still out. I think some more testing needs to be done. I don't think the napkin math has been enough just yet. But that is pretty significant. And I do think a bipod will make some amount of sense moving forward in maybe some slightly more casual content. It's basically trying to turn rockets into grenade launchers at this point. It's trying to make it so people are not only using rockets for boss damage purposes, which I think is cool, because like using rockets on giant blocks of enemies is like really fun, right? Envious Assassin, speaking of which, it's a good perk, but like you need to mentally keep track of timers in your head to like activate it, which I have like never liked, and why I stopped using Envious Assassin. I just didn't like that I had to keep track of another timer in my head while also micromanaging 4 timers on the side of the screen over here. There is no longer a time limit. After kills within, you must activate the perk or get another kill. The perk will activate even if the magazine is overflowed. It will stop activating once you hit the maximum magazine size, though. And enhanced Envious Assassin now provides fractionally more ammo per kill instead of a longer window. Over Under, which is a perk that pretty much nobody... I literally have it pulled up here because I know y'all don't know what it does. Increases damage against shielded targets. And there's different percentages based on what kind of target you are shooting. Little too niche for its own good, you don't say. Opportunities to utilize the perk were too few and far between. They are increasing we have increased the already existing damage bonus and added 2 more. We hope the perk can find more of a balance in endgame PvE builds, particularly for features or for activities that feature Dark Cabal and Lucent Moths. Now provides a bonus body shot damage against players with Woven Mail. That is very specific for PvP. Increase the bonus damage against combatant shields. Deals significantly increased damage to enemies who are enhanced by Dark Cabal overshields, in addition to enemies shielded by Lucent Moths. I'm still a little skeptical, but I guess if you're going into a particular activity that has a lot of those things, it might be at least worth thinking about. but I'm still skeptical personally. Under pressure, this perk is pretty much directly targeted at fusion rifles because it gets to be active 100% of the time in PvP because it activates when you have a low amount of ammo, and you pretty much always have a low amount of ammo when it comes to your special weapon in PvP. So they are reducing the effectiveness of this perk, particularly pointed at fusion rifles, so that way you don't have 100% uptime on this kind of a perk, which I understand because Under Pressure has been very, very good to fusion rifles ever since a lot of these ammo changes came in. Shoot to loot. Explosive damage now interacts with orbs of power. They were talking about explosive payload, kinetic tremors, how like you could, try to shoot near a brick or near an orb of power with explosive rounds, but the explosive damage wouldn't pick them up. Now it seems like they do. They did some custom tuning behind the scenes, and that should now work. Also removed an unintended interaction that allows Shoot to Loot to continuously grant ammo to overflowed magazines without actually consuming the ammo brick on the ground. That's what this first one is. Valiant Charge, a sword perk. Perk now deactivates after the initial sword swing. I know very little about this perk. I don't think many people are really using that much except for sword enthusiasts, if they're even using it at all. It's basically working as intended now. Ambush, origin trait. Certain unintended damage impulses that were causing ambush to deactivate, so that should be fixed now. Explosive light fixed a bug where the enhanced version was granting 2 stacks on the initial orb pickup. It's working properly now. Chill clip, big nerf, actually. Must have multi-tool, a little too easy to deal with all champion types. It's slightly more difficult to get the freeze effect. Reduce slow stacks from 60 to 40. You now need 3 shots at base in order to proc Chill Clip now. That is going to change some stuff up. Wolfpack rounds no longer trigger this perk. It was a bit more of a very specialized case. Chill Clip, getting hit. I'm a little surprised, but at the same time, like, it makes sense because, like, Riptide, even Deliverance, these Chill Clip weapons, I mean, they're so versatile, and Bungie's kind of like, hey, all right, you got to pay a little bit more for this now, or like you got to use something else maybe. Understandable. I mean, you could literally deal with all champions with this, right? You could slow and overload. I mean, you're still going to be able to slow and overload, right? You're still going to be able to hit in 1 shot. Unstoppables, you're going to need 3 shots now. Barriers, you're going to need 3 shots now to freeze them to just even stop them. It doesn't stun them, but it just stops them for a moment. Makes sense. Was not expecting it. Was not expecting it. Crafting. I think now this is the last section. Yeah. Okay. Crafting. Look, they know we go to Shirochi and we just sit there and we farm Thrall. It's not really what they want us to do to level the weapons, but they're not going to take it away. They're not going to, prevent people from doing that if they really want to, but instead they're going to introduce more meaningful ways of getting weapon XP. Activity completions, PvP kills. They're increasing the amount of progression from defeating Guardians in PvP starting in Season 22. They're boosting activity completion progress in Crucible, Trials, Dares, Wellspring, Gambit, Platinum score completions of Legend, and a Master solo Lost Sectors. That's a nice little boost too. There's also been an issue with like XP rollover where, like, let's say you're at 98% on a gun and you complete an activity that would normally give you, like, let's say 25%. It would just click you up to 0 and you would get the level, but you would lose that remaining, like, percentage. Like, it just wouldn't come through. And that was pretty annoying. It seems like Bungie has fixed this. It was supposed to come a little bit earlier, but they instead decided to do some deep sight changes to make it easier to get deep sight weapons. Now that rollover is going to work in Season 22 and beyond. Hopefully it works right off the rip, right? So no longer are you going to have a situation where it's like, oh my God, I'm at 98%. I got to try and kill a couple of things so I don't waste all of this XP that I would normally be getting. So I think that will help alleviate some frustrations just at base level. Like, even if we just got this on its own, I'd be like, oh my God, thank you. But they're also making it so you can, like, buy levels with, like, Glimmer and stuff. Crafted and enhanced weapons will receive a new mod slot in their weapon details where you can spend Glimmer and enhancement cores to boost the level of the weapon. This mod will increase the weapon's level directly, leaving your existing progress towards the next level untouched. So it's not like filling up a meter. It's just like 1, 2, 3. There's no cap at how much you can do this, but the higher your weapon is in level, the more expensive it's going to be to do it. So I suspect a lot of people are basically going to use this feature to unlock all of the base level perks at a minimum. Some, rich daddies out there, rich mommies out there will maybe use it to get to all of the enhanced perks. But a lot of people are going to use this to be like, I just want to unlock the perk combo that I want to use, and then I can level it much more naturally, which is exactly what I plan on doing with that. And then we have this right here. With the restrictions of how many weapons you can level at a time and the always increasing expansion to the amount of weapons that have a level, we want to provide an alternative method of leveling that allows for both jumpstarting of a crafted weapon and also the ability to level a larger amount of weapons stockpiled in your inventory. Like if you have a bunch of like level 1 guns that you've just like, I just want to craft every single gun and then I'll throw them in the vault and I'll level them later. They don't want it to be prohibitive, but they don't like... They want you to make conscious decisions on which ones to level, not just being able to level everything, unless, again, you're a rich mommy, rich daddy, rich non-binary, whatever you are, then you can do whatever you want. Couple more things. Resonant and harmonic alloys will be deprecated as a required material and no longer be obtained during a dismantle in Season 22. They're going to remove these materials completely at some point, but for now, you can just exchange them for Glimmer, at Rahul in the tower. This is going to make raid weapons not as big of a problem. Jez, to level up, you will no longer need raid materials in order to level raid weapons anymore, or any sort of alloy. Like that whole system is just, that's gone. That's just gone now. Finally, Neo Muna weapon pattern acquisition. I see so much pain over these weapons so often. It's impossible to get them. They're so inconsistent. I'm farming these gold beacon patrols and I'm just not getting anything. They're finally doing something about it. The Neo Muna Pinnacle, weekly Pinnacle story mission score challenges will provide guaranteed weapon pattern progress the first time it's completed each week. The vendor engram upgrade will increase the drop chance of deep sight Neo Muna weapons. This is retroactive if you already have it. The Throne World vendor engram upgrade will also receive the same behavior for Throne World deep sight weapons. Will be retroactive. Also include a bug fix in the underlying deep sight drop system that manifested from the major overhaul we did for Lightfall. This bug could decrease the deep sight drop rate as you neared the completion of a pattern set. Although this deep sight bug on its own would normally have a low impact on deep sight behavior, the problem was exacerbated when coupled with the lack of deterministic deep sight sources for Neo Muna weapons. So basically they said, this is saying like, as you got farther along, you had less odds of like getting the thing that you needed to drop. And when Neo Muna drops were already as rare as they were, it just made it so painful. So good stuff there. Still making necessary changes to the system and are in the middle of developing a large crafting related feature targeted for the final shape year. Provide more details about the upcoming changes after they have a bit more time in the oven. Excited to share more. Whew! I tried to go as fast as I could, and I'm still so slow. I'm still so damn slow. I'm so sorry, but that is another dev insight for you, another thick dev insight. I was about to say we're going to have another one next week. We're not, because we're less than a week away from the next season. So I'm going to have a kind of a recap of Joe Blackburn's video that he posted on Twitter about his response to the State of the Game update. I'm going to have that sometime soon. And then the final video of the season, I think, is just going to be closing thoughts on Season 21, of which I do have kind of a hot take coming in. It's a bit hot, especially considering how people have treated this season in particular. So we'll see what you guys think of that. But I'm going to go. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next time.